Behind every bit of mom wisdom is a story of a real mom and real kids just trying to love each other well. Whether you're cozied up on the couch with a mug of coffee or out for a walk, you're welcome to join us as we share stories and laugh, learn, and grow together. It's the iMom Podcast. Welcome to this week's episode of the iMom Podcast. I'm Abby. Megan and Susan and Chloe are here again. And I'm here meaning I survived doing a yes day with my family. I survived, even though I did not want to do it. And I want to tell you about it because it was actually kind of fun. So if you're not familiar with what a yes day is, there's the movie on, was it Netflix? The Jennifer Garner one? Was it Netflix? Anybody?
Bobby says yes.
Bobby's shaking his head.
Yes.
Thank you, producer Bobby. So the gist of a yes day is that you just, whatever your kids ask for, you say yes. The premise of the movie was that Jennifer Garner played this woman who was like just inclined to say no, even had like a bazillion different ways to say no to her kids, and was kind of becoming a little bit of a fuddy-duddy. The dad was more of a free spirit, and she remembers what life was like when her kids were really young and before she had kids. And she's like, I want to be that fun person again. I want that back. And so she decides to do a yes day. They have some parameters, but she's like, basically, I'll say yes to anything you ask. It gets fully out of control. And I told my kids, because they had seen the movie, I was like, under no circumstances will we go through the car wash with our windows down.
Oh my God.
That is not happening. Like, that's the movie.
That sounds like my nightmare.
Right. But we started, and I told him, I was like, I'm going for a walk. My older son is very particular about, rules. And so he wants to know, so how does this work? What time will we start? What time will we end? Do we start first thing in the morning? Is this like midnight to midnight? And I appreciate that. So I was like, listen, I'm going to get up. I'm going to go for a walk. And when I get home from my walk, then we'll start yes day. And they said, well, when does it end? I said, well, if part of your yes day is staying up super late, then it'll end when we go to bed. So whenever we go to bed, that is the end. So I made the rules, which were like, it can't cost a lot of money. We have to respect people's property. We have to respect ourselves and our bodies. It has to be somewhat safe. And I said, you have to have fun. And then I also added later on, I forgot it, and I had to pencil it in because I printed it and we signed it and dated it and everything. I said, we will be at church at 8:30 tomorrow morning. So like that was, I don't care how late we stay up. We can come home from church and crash, but we will be at church at 8:30 tomorrow morning. And we just had a blast. The first thing my older son asked was, can I lick the mirror? I'm not even kidding. He's like,
is this the same one that wanted a microwave?
Is this microwave?
No, this is the older one.
Wow.
Isn't that weird? I know. I have weird kids.
Like, I can't even imagine he wouldn't have just tried that in the bathroom sometime. I wouldn't have asked.
Maybe he wanted to do it with my permission. I don't know. So yeah, he's like,
boys are so funny. Can y'all imagine a girl ever being like, can I lick the mirror? No. Boys are so weird.
Well, I think it's because he knows that if, like, sometimes when they like touch the mirror and leave streaks or whatever, I'm like, like I have to clean it. And so I think it was like his way of,
I'm really gonna mess it up.
Mom, can I lick the mirror?
That's bad.
Maybe he's just testing you. Maybe he's just testing you to see if like you'd say no, or he's like, how far can I take this? Can I lick the mirror?
Right. So now I'm pulling up pictures on my phone to remember all the things that we did. Probably the most adventurous thing was riding bikes into the pool. Oh. And that one, my husband was like, no, we are not doing that because it's a saltwater pool. And he's like, you're going to ruin your bikes. And I was like, why don't we just rinse them off real good afterwards? And we'll hose them off and get all the salt water out of the insides and off the thing. And so by the time they did it, he was like, you guys should have built a ramp. Yeah. So we both kind of embraced it. They made smoothies. We did like a race around the living room where they had like a sheet over their whole body. And so they couldn't see, like they had to inchworm around the living room.
Boys.
Yeah. The little one, actually, they both wanted to break something with a bat. So talking about boys.
Me too.
Yeah, me too. That sounds really nice.
I know, right? They took like an old, like not a Matchbox car, but something like that, like a McDonald's toy kind of thing, and took it out to the driveway and wanted to just like hit it with a bat and see how it would break and what would happen and all those weird boyish things.
Love it.
What else did we do? He made smoothies, which they do that on any day. Went out for ramen for dinner.
I'm scared. I don't feel like I'm cut out to be a boy mom. Like I just
got
these
2 boys.
activities.
Well, and we got on the roof. They wanted to get on the roof at night and look at the stars.
gosh.
And that was like a heart attack moment for
Oh
me.
my
Not just for
God.
myself, but to have them like climbing up the ladder and climbing over the end of the ladder.
Yeah, like how am I going to explain this
my
to the
God.
police?
right, right.
If one of them falls. Well,
And then it ended, the night ended. We went to Dunkin' to get donuts and it was closed. I mean, it was open. The drive-through was open. So we just had to drive through and get them. But then they asked if they could toilet paper my parents' house. And so we did that
Yes.
together. And that was probably the best part because it was a little bit sneaky. My mom's bedroom light was on. It was like 1 a.m.
Yeah.
My mom's light was on, but I'm sure she was asleep. And they got to see that I like actually knew how to do this.
Oh,
and I'm like,
yes.
oh, please.
Yeah.
I come from a long line of
Yeah.
toilet paperers. But anyway, we had a really good time. And what's funny is that we have an article on imom.com and on All Pro Dad about a No Rules Day, which is kind of similar. And I've read it before. I've written an angle on it. I've talked about the benefits, but until I actually did it, I don't think I really understood how much it would impact me and how much it would impact my kids. So, okay, when you hear about it yesterday, whether you watch the movie or hear my account of it, what do you think about doing it? Do you think you would want to do it? Do you think that it sounds like a nightmare?
Well, I watched your video because I saw your video on social first and I was like, oh my gosh, she's the coolest mom. I don't know if I'd be able to do this. But it also looked like so much fun. I feel like my kids are still too little to do it because James is 4 and Beck is 1. So I just don't think they're old enough to understand it yet.
To everything.
Yeah. Oh no, he would be down for it. He's like the happiest kid. He's like, sure, I can just see him. But I definitely at some point want to do it. Having 2 boys though, I'm scared of what they might come up with that I will knowingly have to say yes to. And I know my husband will go along with it because he already lets them do more things than I would. But
yeah,
I'm just going to have to embrace it.
Susan, you feel like you already are a yes mom, like every day.
I do think I was like, we went TPing and I drove all the time. When holes came out and we were redoing our backyard anyway, I said, go ahead, dig. They dug holes everywhere. I almost broke my ankle one time stepping into one of those holes that I didn't see. But I don't know, Megan, I think I was pretty open. I never had a yes day. We didn't know about that.
So let me put it this way. Me being the oldest child, you definitely became more of a yes as my siblings went on. Because I think a lot of stuff that I wasn't allowed to do, they were allowed to do. So
yeah.
And the boys were more creative. But I was a yes ma'am. I was definitely a yes mom for you. And you always wanted friends over and you always wanted to do stuff with them. I had to plan things all the time. I wish we'd had a yes day. That would have been fun. But with 5, that would have been hard.
That would have been crazy. Well, I have ideas that will come up later on that note. Chloe, what do you think? Do you get a little bit scared at the idea or are you all about it?
I get scared, but I'm excited. I think I see the value in it.
I did have a friend that did something similar. Their child was allowed to make all the decisions for the family for the day. Granted, they didn't have 5 kids. I think there was 3, but their child was allowed to like say what they wanted to have for dinner and what they wanted to do that. It was like a weekend day and what they wanted to do that day. And so each kid got a different Saturday to like say what they wanted to do.
Yeah. I was talking to another mom that we all know and she said, and she was very serious when she said it. She's like, I don't think I could do this. I think that it takes a certain kind of parent to do this because it just really makes me uneasy thinking about what my kids might ask to do and that I would still want to say no because I just don't think it would be safe or good for them or whatever. And then when she's like, she was imagining all this. She's like, I imagine I would then say no. And then they would say, but it's a yes day. And it would create all this conflict. And so, I mean, are certain moms just really is this not a good idea for certain moms?
Well, I know BJ, another guy in our office, does the No Rules Day. He puts some rules. Like he's pretty free,
like
but
your rules.
you can make some rules.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's a difference between a yes day and a no rules day. And I kind of I wanted to do a no rules day with my kids, but they knew what a yes day was because of the movie.
Yeah.
But I even like in the contract that I made them sign, I wrote no rules / yes day, because to me, a yes day is a lot more like, let's go, let's do, and it might even be more expensive.
Yeah.
Whereas a no rules day is just, as long as it's not hurting anybody and not hurting property, you can
Ice
do
cream
it.
for breakfast.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you might not be a yes day kind of mom, but maybe you're a no rules mom or vice versa.
Yeah.
Abby, what I was going to ask is, did your boys, you kind of laid out some parameters for them. Did they ask you to do anything that you actually did have to say no to?
I want to say yes. I think that they did, and I can't remember what it is, but it was probably, let me think. I think it was just stuff that it was going to either be too destructive or I knew it was not going to end well, that kind of thing. Otherwise, I really did try to say yes.
Yeah.
But you
And
had
how
a
did they
contract.
respond? Like, did they take it well when you said no?
They were fine with it. Yeah. They were fine with it. They didn't.
Okay.
They didn't mind. And honestly, I had to suggest things to them.
Really?
Like they just weren't being very creative or very fun. I was like, "Why don't we do this? Why don't we do that?"
But you had a
I mean,
contract
they
too.
had a pretty low bar if what the first thing they asked was to lick the mirror.
I know. I know. I think I run a tight ship, and so I think the idea of we get to do anything. Well, let's start with baby steps. If we did it again, that might be an interesting experiment. If we did
Yeah.
another yes day, what they might.
Have they
Try to
brought it
do.
up since then? Like, oh, next yes day we need to do this.
No.
Okay.
No, they have not. And I would do it again because they did learn a lot of things. And we can talk about that in a little bit. But I was thinking, do you think that moms are programmed to say no today? We know
I
that
just think it's automatic.
What?
I just think it's automatic.
How come?
Like, I think it's just you get used to telling your kids don't do that or be careful or no, you can't have ice cream. No, you can't have ice cream. No, you can't have ice cream. I think it's just kind of your gut reaction because they're going to ask for something that they can't have.
Some moms let their kids, they say yes all the time, even to the point of spoiling them. So it's kind of interesting.
Abby, one other question I had is, do you give them advance notice of this? They can think up what they want to do, or is it a surprise where you tell them that day?
Well, we've only done it once. And in this case, yes, they had advance notice, but they also put it on their summer bucket list. And so they knew that they wanted to do something this summer. But they hadn't been writing a list of things, nothing like that.
I didn't know if they were premeditating everything or if it was something that you just spring on them that day. And
If it was
I
on
guess
their
you could do
summer
either
bucket
way.
list, they should have been.
I know,
planning.
missed opportunity, boys.
Yeah.
I think that there's so much on parents. We know that boundaries are good and discipline is good, and they help kids thrive. But I wonder if, knowing that in the back of our minds, if we think that saying no is good parenting, do we step into that zone of well, the more often I say no, the more disciplined and the more boundaries my child's going to have, the more they're going to know I'm in charge. Is that why we go to no very often?
I was going to say, I feel like my gut reaction is to say no. And instead I was looking at, I don't know if it was a video or reading an article. It may have been on iMom. I can't remember, but it was talking about how instead of immediately saying no to your child, say something else instead of saying no, you can't have ice cream, say, you know what, would you like to have some fruit? Or how about you finish your dinner? Don't just immediately say no, say something else that's not the word no.
Yeah.
I think in the little things like food, that's just health stuff. We don't want our kids to be unhealthy. But I think a lot of times we say no because it's inconvenient to us.
Yeah.
And we don't want to take the time to clean up the mess or supervise to make sure nobody gets hurt. And so of course, riding their bikes into the pool, you probably had to be there to make sure it didn't get crazy and they cracked their head open. It took your time. And so we say no because no, we don't have time or want to extend the time.
Yeah.
But that's definitely one of the things that I learned from having this yes day. And like I said, I've read our article a bunch of times that talks about, things that I gained. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I get it. But until I actually did it, I didn't understand the heart. I didn't understand it in my heart, which was, the things that I learned, that I can be a fun mom and my kids saw that side of me. There's so much of life that's rules and work and getting through the day and making sure they're check, 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 all things are done and good, that fun is just like so low on the list that they got to see that side of me, which was really good for all of us. It made me realize, like you said, Megan, that no is usually a reaction and not a response to them.
That's good.
And that going forward, I'd like to try to ask myself, why not more often? Like if in my mind, I go, no, I don't want to do this. Like, well, why not? For example, my little one asked, can I take my Squishmallow into the grocery store? We're going to go to Publix. We went to Bahama Bucks like to get ices. And he's like, can I take my Squishmallow? And I was like, no, yes. Like I found myself even like saying, "Nuh," and then going, wait, yes, you can. And I thought, why wouldn't I say yes on a regular day? Like my 10-year-old wants to bring a stuffed animal to the grocery store. Like, why not?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I let him do it? Is it because I think he might lose it? Is it because it's going to get dirty? Is it weird? I mean, like all these reasons that just don't matter as much as him getting to enjoy having a buddy with him, his little stuffed animal with him. And another thing, it helped me and my husband communicate better. We found ourselves like having to discuss like the riding the bikes into the pool. And I said yes first. He goes, And I looked at him, I go, really? Are you sure? And then we had to go off to the side to talk. And he told me his concerns. I told him why I thought it was going to be okay. We kind of compromised. So it was an interesting like marital experiment too, which is really nice.
Plus, I think in that case, they learn something. Like it's okay to experiment with your vehicles. I'm thinking of even a car, but you got to clean it up or you're going to hurt it. Like, salt water can hurt my bicycle. So in the future, you got to think about things. It does. They do learn things doing crazy stuff.
Yeah.
True.
Yep. And we definitely were much more intentional with the day. Like none of us, with the exception of me taking pictures, my husband and I were not on our phones. The kids were not on their tablets. And I told them at the beginning of the day, I was like, listen, if it's a yes day and you say, Mom, can I sit and watch Minecraft, watch someone watch Minecraft, all day on YouTube? I guess I could say yes, but is that really how you want to spend this day? And so none of us were on electronics, and we made memories, not because it was a yes day, but because we spent time together.
Yeah.
And so you can do that anytime. It doesn't have to be a special occasion. So cool. It was a really, really good day. Here's another thought about the yes day or the no rules day. What if you have a kid that's not comfortable with it? Like we always talk about like mom not wanting to do it because she's uncomfortable, but like what if you have a child that doesn't like the idea of risk or adventure or whatever? Like, do you force a kid to participate in a yes day?
Well, do all the kids have to do the same thing? Like, let's say just one of your sons wanted to go on the roof.
That's true.
Does the other one have to go?
No.
Were they in
that's a good point.
agreement?
They agreed on everything they wanted to do.
Because your oldest is really like
He's more timid and less adventurous than the little one.
Yeah.
So
it's a good sibling
right.
relationship exercise there.
Yeah, and it's a good way, I guess, to see your kids' personalities come out. I like that. That's a good idea.
Well, because I have boys and girls, and I can't see the girls wanting to do all the stuff the boys were doing, like lick the mirror.
You never know. You never know. There's some weird girls too. So in kind of prepping for this episode, I was looking up like yes day and all this stuff, and there is a group of women online who are bitter toward the movie Yes Day.
Really?
Yeah, but hear me out. It actually kind of makes some sense.
Oh, sorry.
Because they said, I already do for my kids. And now I'm expected to also do this yes day. Like it feels like I'm already trying to be a good mom and now I have to do this. And I'm resentful at the idea of having to add another thing. And in this case, it's like a really physically taxing thing. So I think that's what I kind of want people to take away from this episode. Even though I did it, I loved it, I learned a lot from it, and it was a good experience for my family. You don't have to do this quote yes day or a no rules day to be a good mom. You can do like alternate versions. You can do, for example, alternate versions. You could do a yes morning or a yes afternoon. So like partial day. You could do where dad does it while you're away. You'll be missed, but you could do that. My husband suggested, hey, why don't we do it where the kids don't necessarily know that it's a yes day, but between the two of us, we agree that anything they ask, they're going to say yes to. And what about you guys? Do you have any thoughts on ideas?
Well, you could just keep track in your little head that I'm going to say at least one yes to each child in 1 week or something. The whole point of the movie is she had become very reactive in saying no, and she needed to adjust that, and she goes all the way to the other end. I don't think we have to walk away from every novel movie idea in our culture and think that we have to do that.
I know our producer, Bobby, him and his wife do a really cool thing with their kids. So every Thursday, it's like a summer thing. One kid, when Bobby gets home from work, they get to decide what the whole family gets to do for the rest of the evening up until bedtime. That's fun. Dinner, activity, dessert, anything.
Yeah. And that helps the other kids be less self-centered, kind of like we were talking about in last week's episode, to honor each other, to listen to each other, to realize, oh, my little sister, how old's your littlest one, Bobby? She's 3. And how old's your oldest one? 12. So the 12-year-old has to learn something from the 3-year-old and respect the 3-year-old and give a voice to the 3-year-old. I think that, and it's a little less pressure on the parents to just do one child, one night, and then be done with it.
You know what else is cool about that is think about over time, if you continue that, not just in the summer, and did it for years, the siblings would start to learn what brings the other sibling joy. And as they go into adulthood, they'll know. They'll be like, oh, yeah, I'm going to do this, or because they love that. I think that's cool. Yeah. It's like they learn their love language almost.
Yeah. That's cool.
If you go into a yes day or whatever version you decide to do, a no rules day, I think that you have to ask what your goal is. For me, going into it, I wanted to check it off, literally check it off the bucket list. Do a yes day, check. Maybe for you, it's to give your kids a chance to be crazy. If I did it again, my goal would be to build memories with my kids and to start the day with a different mindset. And then hopefully that mindset would teach me I can say yes more often. I can relax a little bit. I can let my kids be more adventurous. And like, what can I learn from just giving my kids an opportunity to do what they want to do for the day? All right, chime in on Instagram. We would love to hear your take on a yes day or a no rules day. You can find us at imom.com, imomdot.com on Instagram. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to the iMom podcast. iMom is the motherhood program of the nonprofit organization Family First. Along with our fatherhood program, All Pro Dad, we exist to help you love your family well. Subscribe to our daily email, the iMom Minute, by going to imom.com/subscribe and get tons of great ideas, insight, and inspiration. The iMom podcast is hosted by me, Abby Watts, along with Susan Merrill, Megan Tigner, and Chloe Blumenthal.